I guess I'd say first, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Is it possible you can give me a breakdown in terms of if taxes pass, what percent of the money will come from Fulton and DeKalb, and what would they in turn be receiving?
No, that's a good question. I don't know the numbers by county. My staff has that, but I don't have that memorized. I can tell you what CEO Ellis used as a number in his recent State of the County address a week or two ago, in which he said that over the years that DeKalb had been participating in Marta, they had contributed about $800 million in sales taxes, but they're expecting to get back roughly $3.2 billion in projects when you look at the totality of roads and transit works that are going to happen in DeKalb County. I can't verify that number, but that's what he used. But it's a good question, and I can give you my email address. Okay. And I'll get that information out to you for my staff, because we have estimates from each of the counties. Yes, I just don't have it memorized.
And I'll help, because I don't have it by the deep breakdown, and even if I did, I wouldn't even try to, because the numbers, it's important to be specific. But let me tell you in big picture on the transit side. And I'm going to use, there's several numbers, none of them are tails, but it just depends on which year of expenditure you're using and all that. So let me just say that if you use six point something billion dollar number, okay? Over the transit program is a little bit over, the transit portion, the transit part is a little bit more than 50% of what this region voted on. And over about 75% of the $3 billion that comes to transit comes directly to Fulton on projects that are Fulton, DeKalb, and the city of Atlanta. $600 million goes for Marta State of Good Repair. $600 million goes to the Beltline. $700 million goes to Clifton Corridor Project. $225 million goes to I-20 East. Another $37 million is in there for North Line, for extension on our North Line project to begin to do the planning and environmental work. So I mean, it is very big numbers that wind up of the total out of that 10-county area that we have that wind up coming into, that are projects that are either in or, I mean, they're in Fulton Care.
Yeah, and then there are a number of big numbers on the road side too, because the 400-285 interchange, which is a Fulton DeKalb area, is probably the biggest road project.
And see, I have my constituents saying they want to go no because they're not seeing any benefits other than some cosmetics.
Well, I can't argue with them. I don't know what benefit they're looking for, but there's a lot of things. Plus, a lot of people don't realize that, and Dr. Scott said 6, 7, 8. You'll hear people using the numbers in different ways, and let me explain what the differences are. When we were developing the project list for the elected officials to make decisions on which projects to have in and have out, we did it based upon constant 2011 dollars. So you'll hear a number often said 7.2 billion. That's the number I use in my speech today. That's constant dollars without taking into account inflation over the 10-year period. If you account for inflation, which is real everyday things, it's roughly $8.5 billion. But $7.2 billion is the number that we've been using in our public discussion. Of that 7.2, 85% of it, roughly $6.1 billion, goes for these regional projects, transit and roads that Dr. Scott mentioned, 157 different projects. 15% goes back to the local governments, the counties and the cities for transportation projects in their communities. So that'll be a little more than $1 billion that gets divided up to the cities and counties based upon their population. So based on that, Fulton, DeKalb, and the city are going to get the lion's share of that because they have the largest populations. We're net result the second largest. So the point is that there's still a lot of money, and those local governments have to define how they're going to use their share for their transportation needs. They can only use it for transportation, can't use it for anything else. And we don't know what projects they're deciding to do yet. They're working on, their staff's working on doing that. And as soon as we have that information from them, we'll be working hard to get that out to the public too, because that's just as important as those projects that will happen in your neighborhoods and your local streets and commercial districts. So.
And let me add to that there too. What constituency base do you represent? May I ask you?
City of Atlanta.
City of Atlanta, okay. Doug mentioned the 15%. That's off the top. What that means is that that's an opportunity for each jurisdiction. Rockdale County, per se, has the smallest, we're the smallest jurisdiction within the region. And so we, Rockdale County, we're giving up $39 million to the city of Atlanta. That's what I'm giving up in order for this project, the Beltline and the other projects to go forward and trying to go forward, because ultimately what's going to happen in the future is that Rockdale, Newton, Oconee is going to benefit. Because right now, if we lose this opportunity, just like Alabama lost that opportunity 25 years ago by not having the vision on a 5,000 runway to go to 8,000, if we miss this opportunity, then we're going to be like Alabama was, because North Carolina will clean our clock. And that will put us 50 years behind. And I don't want that in my legacy. And I hope that the citizens of this community, in this region, does not want that either. So I was open to giving up $39 million. I took the eye off my chest. Okay, now that 15%, that millions of dollars we're going to get, I could never get that money to fix the neighborhoods where there's potholes with a SPLOST dollar program. I just can't do it. So I'm encouraging everyone to look at the facts, look at the numbers, and be a little more creative in our communities to get our roads fixed. Yes, because we have not been at the table in the past, most of the dollars seem like it went to the north end of the community.
That's true.
If we continue to sit on the sidelines of life and say, I ain't playing ball, and we don't go out there and fight like Dr. Scott said, and stand up and start raising Cain, then we don't get nothing. We'll be another 40 years behind. Last comment. South DeKalb community, years back, had the opportunity when the train went to downtown Decatur. You heard it, Mr. Hooker mention this. Had an opportunity to take the train down Camden Road to Stonecrest Mall, to South DeKalb Mall. But because we had our Mercedes and our Jacketies and two-car garages, we turned it down. So as a result, we're fighting that same penny today, 25 years later, because so that's why we have a depression in our community, because we're not keeping it real with ourselves. So I say, y'all, let's get real, let's get on this, and let's follow the dollars. You heard me say Greta, and you heard me say GDOT. In HB 277, they mandated those two had to control the money.
And it seems as if that's what's going on. They the one got the money, and it's not. It's like, what are the elected officials doing? They're just giving it away or what?
Okay, and that is right. That's wrong. And let me say, the state legislators made the law, so we had to live with the law. And they left a lot of things unsaid. And one of the things they left unsaid is, how will the local elected officials who develop the list be involved in the implementation? So we're working now with GDOT and Greta and Marta and GSFIC. If you don't know GSFIC, you need to know it's a very powerful but quiet state agency. Okay. We're working with them, and I'm leading the task force representing my board and other local elected officials on defining the role that we will have in the major policy decisions on how the program gets implemented. It's a very positive discussion so far. I expect it's going to result in some very positive things. One of my top goals with this is to be sure that your elected representatives not only just have the accountability for asking your support, but also have the power to help ensure your interests are guarded and how the money is spent and how the projects are put out and rolled out. So we're working on that right now. And hopefully in a few months we'll be able to make a major announcement.
Let me give another strong point, brother. Let me give another point. Because, see, what has happened, you hear me say unfunded mandates. What has happened is that because we don't pay attention to the 2-year seats in state legislation, we went to sleep in the gubernatorial race. We lost all those seats. So what happens is that they're setting these policies up here, throwing the rock and hiding their hand, and they hold the local governments accountable to try to figure it out. It's not right. But we get the heat because I'm on the street. And they tell you, I'll see you later. I'm going to put a legislation in place, and I'll see you next March. So that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. So please, encourage your community. Is next, Dr. Scott mentioned this, on Monday. Let me put it this way.
Yeah, I was going to refer to that too.
I was in a meeting on Thursday at the Capitol. And I can only say so much here, okay?
We understand.
And it was a 40-page document that had over 1,000 lines in it that I had to review in 3 minutes.
Why is it?
and make a decision. And I said, time, I'm on the fence. I need some time to study this. So those are the kind of decisions that are being made potentially, because this legislation draft go onto the floor on the 23rd. So Dr. Scott mentioned from the 23rd through 5 months, you say?
That's it, that figure about 4, but you know how it can kind of lip over sometime. That's it.
Y'all better get busy, get out that calendar.
Well, and let me explain it a little bit more. Dr. Scott talked about this in her remarks this morning. She said, the policy, the brains, is so important. One of the major issues that we're wrestling with now is transit governance for the region. You got Marta, you got Cobb County Transit, you got Gwinnett County Transit. We hope, if the voters are kind to give a penny, we'll be able to restore Clayton, C-Tran, okay? How do all these systems work together to make the most efficient use of the sales dollars if the voters adopt the referendum? There is no regional transit governance mechanism right now. There's no one agency that's in charge. The bill that's going to be dropped on Monday is going to try to define how that's going to be done. And they're going to be looking at changing GRETA, the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, that runs the express buses from the suburbs into the city. They're going to be looking to change GRETA into being that entity that will be responsible for getting all the federal funding, all the planning, and building all the transit projects that have already been, that the state legislature says they already have to build. Now, here's the issue. A lot of us step back and said, at the end of the day, we don't care. We'd like it to be Marta, but we don't care if it's GRETA. But what we do care about is that the board that makes the decisions, the majority of that board has to be local elected officials who represent the people who are paying the money and using the service, not state appointed people who don't know jack diddly, no matter how good-hearted they might be. That is the challenge that we are currently in. It's been a very active and vigorous debate. I won't speak for the chairman because he's actually on the task force that's been representing the local governments in intense negotiations with the state on this issue. We're hopeful that we're going to be able to get a majority of those appointees to be local elected officials. But right now, that means asking the governor to give up power.
And if he just turned around and got rid of the folks' equipment, what make you think he's going to do that?
I say so far we've had some positive discussions, but it is still a fight ahead. And what he is saying to you is pay attention, watch the legislature. When that bill drops on January 23rd, which is Monday, we need as many born people as possible to get down there, talk to the legislatures and say, this is important. Get out here and support our local folks who represent us.
It's important that the communities galvanize and get down there you got to have people down there every day. Because it's going to the transportation subcommittees and they'll be having those discussions. The squeaky wheel do what?
Get those.
So if you lay back and go to sleep, then the governor, we talk about this all the time, you got to put skin in the game. Why should any entity not pay, but then want to control?
Right.
See, the local governments, we're paying. The citizens of our communities are paying 1 penny.
Not the state.
You understand? So it's important that we get down there and follow this process for the next 90 days. It's going to go from the House side to the Senate side. And then it may go into subcommittees. They will try to they won't slice it, dice it, smother it, cover it, and hide it. So that it can confuse you. But please, folk, please, ma'am, please, sir, be proactive.
And encourage your local elected leaders to stay involved and on top. Because I wanted to say, and I'm not going to cast any stones here, but I want to say that some of my board members, I have 39 board members and 23 of them are local elected officials, county commission chairmen and mayors. Some of them are extremely engaged, intensely engaged, follow it, are engaged in the debate every day without fail, faithfully. Some of them, I'm ashamed to say, I'm afraid to say, act like nothing's supposed to happen. And when the big questions come, they don't have a clue of what's gone down. And and then they want to act as though everybody's not giving them enough
Okay.
obeisance for their status in life. We can't have that. You can't have that. You can't afford that. There are too many major decisions. And I say a road less traveled, I am not lying, people. This is monumental in the history of this community and this state. And it's hard for people who are just hearing it to come to it, and it's hard to say trust me, because I know people don't want to trust government.
You know.
And I represent a whole bunch of governments. But this is really critical. And I'm not telling you how you vote, but for God's sake, get informed and vote on an informed basis. Don't vote this way or that way just because what somebody said, do this or don't do that.
Look at the
Get
picture.
your own information and make an informed decision. We'll all be better off if you do.
Thank you.
I'll stop preaching, I'm sorry. Miss Ashley.